Steve Sherlock here for Franklin Matters, Franklin Public Radio, available anywhere, anytime on the internet via your browser at WFPR.FM and in the local Franklin Mass FM radio dial 102.9. Yeah, that dial, with the knobs or maybe push buttons you can preset 102.9 on the FM band. Here today, virtually again, with a planning board candidate this time, Mark Mucciarone. Mark, thank you for doing this.
Well, thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. And I think this is a great thing you do for the town. It also gives myself and the other candidates an opportunity to reach out and to everybody, those that don't participate in the actual meetings, but at least they can see us in person. Thank you
Hmm.
again.
Yes, you're a real person. You're alive. We saw each other at the Harvest Festival. It was a glorious day.
It was.
Um, a lot of people were out and about, but clearly not everybody was there. And this is one of the pieces where, at least from my perspective, I want to make sure that we use this platform, thanks to TV and radio, to get your story out so that people can at least cast that informed vote on or before November 4th for our local election, because local elections matter a whole lot here in Franklin.
Yes, they do.
And let's begin with at the beginning, which is always a good place. And we'll start with a little bit. Okay, some people may know you as Mark Mucciarone or even Coach Mooch. Uh, but for those who don't know you, why don't you tell us your Franklin story, or briefly your road here, or your life within Franklin and involvement in the community?
Sure. Thanks, Steve. Well, it's pretty simple. I've been here all my life, with the exception of going to college. But growing up in Franklin, I was the son of a carpenter. I was starting to learn the trade, being under his tutelage. My father also was the building inspector here for a short period of time,
Hmm.
the early 70s, before he passed away at an early age. I truly believe probably if had he not left us, I probably would have been a builder, but that didn't happen, and I sh went to college shortly thereafter. But anyway, I attended all the this public school systems and graduated Franklin High in 1974. Um, After that, I went to college in New Jersey. Um, Graduated with a bachelor of science and bachelor of science in criminal justice.
Mm.
Uh, I went through all the processes of trying to become a police officer. It wasn't in the cards, and I and at the same time, I shortly after college, I married my high school sweetheart, Christine.
Hmm.
46 years. This could come in November.
Congratulations.
Yeah, she's a keeper.
Yep.
Um, we have three children, all grown, seven grandchildren, um, all of which, except for one grandchild, will either have gone through the public school system here in Franklin, including Tri-County, or the younger ones more than likely will.
Hmm.
So, so we value the education system here in Franklin, and otherwise, we all wouldn't have stayed here. Um, in addition, as far as my contributions to the community, um, I did mostly that through youth athletics, starting with Little League all the way through high school, where I coached here in Franklin at the high school level. I also coached here at the college level at Dean for a couple
Oh,
of years,
okay.
all of which is football.
Okay.
So my job didn't allow me really at the time, because I worked a lot of night shifts, to
Mm,
participate in local politics, so to speak,
right.
um, because of my just the hours and the commitment to work. And currently, right now, I'm still coaching with the seventh grade youth football team in here in Franklin. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Hmm. Good. Thank you for that. Yeah, having come out of the corporate world, what now, 5 years ago, almost six, I think. Um, yeah, there's only so many hours of the day between covering family life, doing some other things, and then trying to do, volunteer stuff. There's only so many hours. You got to pick and choose. And then as things change, you get into a different phase of life. And now retired, yeah, I can do much more of this. Still have to make sure the wife's happy with the house and
Yep.
the kids, fortunately, are grown and gone, but still got to keep the family ties going, et cetera. So yeah. The next question that all the candidates have been getting, and to the listeners, just by way of refresh, most of you may have caught others. If you didn't, and this is your first one, thank you for coming in. Um, each of the candidates did get the questions in advance. There are three questions for all the candidates. And then the second set of questions is effectively for each of the roles they're going for. So the town council differs from school committee, differs from planning board, which is what we'll be covering here. The intent thereby is to give us all, as voters and residents, kind of a comparison point. Well, they're all getting the same questions. What's this answer versus that answer? And then make a decision.
Mhm.
So the second question for all, and for you in particular, in this one, the civil discourse clearly is a key component of a democratic republic form of government. The political party divide nationally specifically has unfortunately created a wider uh, divide now than ever. But as an individual, especially in this, nonpartisan local election, and then assuming you go forward, what as an individual can you do, and what would you do to help bridge or avoid that divide?
Well, as a planning board member, I think what needs to happen, we first have to encourage open communication through with the residents of the town of Franklin. I think that's important. We have had some conflict, and I think, trying to understand that, and when you understand that, and you have any kind of disagreements, you can also turn those into opportunities to learn.
Hmm.
So you need to be open-minded, and the people of Franklin, they're really engaged in the town of Franklin. So they're smart, so for a lack of a better word.
Hmm.
Um, but in open society, we need to, when we need to progress as individuals, we need to challenge each other in a respectful way. Everybody has what they believe are valuable ideas and opinions, and I think as individuals, we need to listen to those, and when you listen, I think you can make better informed decisions. But as far as the political, environment, I listen, but I'm really not really engaged in it. I mean, it's important to pay attention, so I really don't get engaged with, uh, the discourse part of it. I understand it, but I don't engage in it. You know,
Hmm.
I just listen, and if I have a comment, I have a comment, and then simple as that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think it's important. We all come with two ears and one mouth. And I think there's an intentional aspect there. We need to listen much more than we talk.
My mother used to say, and it's kind of true, but take it with a grain of salt. She always used to say, you can say anything you want as long as you say it with a smile.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
To a point.
for sure, for sure. Yep. So in planning board specifically, you mentioned building earlier. So what experience and or background will help you serve in this particular role? Or phrased slightly differently, do you bring to the table that would help set you apart from some of the others that are going for the same role?
But anyway, being a lifelong resident here in Franklin, except for in Westwood, like I mentioned before, I retired from FedEx in 2017. I was an operations manager there for 20 of the 30 years I was there. So, as coming from the private sector, um, and the transportation industry, we were always conditioned and or trained, however you want to look at it, to kind of uh, solve problems, be problem solvers,
Hmm.
work, think outside of the box. So I think the planning board, you need to, at times that we're referring to the master plan, we have to think outside of the box to get things done and try to make the town of Franklin a thriving community that it is right now. Um, the past 2 years, I've been an associate member of the planning board. Um, I saw back, so it's back in 2023, so there was an opening for an associate member, and I thought, well, this is maybe an opportunity to get involved in uh, local uh, government.
Hmm.
And so I put in my application. It was a one-horse race, and I won. Uh, so here I am. I'm part of the planning board. So, but I think from my experience with FedEx, um, you know, um, having, have to do research and you have to, look at all the bylaws and, we're self-motivated. It's just the nature of what we did in the transportation industry. You just had to do things and that's what I have to offer, along with my background, my limited background, because my father passed away. I was in high school, so I can't say I can build a house. I
Hmm.
understand how they're put together. I've had to read plans, and again, I've been here all my life, and I think I know what the people that live here, why they live here, because I think we all have that same common feeling. We came here because of what Franklin has to offer, and whether it be school systems, programs here for the kids or adults. So I think it's just a great town to be a part of.
Hmm. Good. Thank you for that. And getting into the planning board questions specifically, you did mention the master plan. So the goals and recommendations of the 2025 master plan, uh, do you support those? And how would you work as a planning board member to implement them? Or if not, why not?
No, I do support the master plan. Um, I appreciate all the people that work towards that. They worked probably hours and hours, thankless type of job where, the people gave up their free time to put a plan together that was designed to enhance, the living quality of living here in Franklin. Um, but I think as a planning board member, we have to promote uh, different ideas, whether it be from housing opportunities, recommend uh, ideas to help promote various businesses to come into town through what we have is one of the main topics now we're having is with some of the development going here is mixed use buildings and
Hmm.
try to incorporate, have a happy medium between the commercial part of the mixed use and the residential part.
Hmm.
So I think we I, that has to be done with providing enough active use commercial space, for instance, bars or pubs or art galleries that support what the master plan wants is looking at walkability, you know, trying to build a village or a community more than, a city, I guess, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
um, so I think we have to be smart on how we have proposed to the town council our ideas as far as increasing the commercial space as for these mixed use buildings, because some of the projects here that are ongoing, they have limited commercial space and they really don't promote that small business or that village feel for
Hmm.
the residents. Because the mixed use is supposed to um, benefit three entities. It's supposed to be the residents who live in the community,
Right.
Franklin residents, and the developer, so that
Sure.
they all have to work in sync with each other. And I think currently we need to kind of amend the bylaw to help that move it along.
Good. Thank you for that. And I think that kind of sets us up for the next question. This is, so what is your vision? And I think you're starting to at least allude to something that the planning board has been doing back to the town council. And just as a FYI for the listeners, the planning zoning bylaws generally come through either the Economic Development Committee, sometimes directly from the planning board, but through the planning department. They go to the council first, to planning board for review, back to the council, who then sets them in, and then in your role of planning board, then as you're evaluating a new project, you're seeing that it fits within the existing bylaws, as I understand it. So with that as a framework, and I think you've alluded to go back to the question, what is your vision for a responsible, appropriate growth in Franklin?
We need to be smart on what we do. I mean, Franklin obviously been here for a long time. Um, we're slowly or quickly, however you want to look at it, we're running out of a lot of real estate, so to
Hmm.
speak, where
Buildable land. Yeah.
buildable land. Most of the land that's available now has been people have avoided to build on it because of various reasons, whether
Yeah.
it's wetlands and things like that. So I think with technology, people have become more creative, and those open spaces are now become viable areas to develop.
Hmm.
So, but we still have to assess and evaluate how we are going to do that. And I think there are some uh, properties that, whether they've been neglected or or underutilized, we try to um, protect them or repurpose them.
Hmm.
If the point where there may be a point where they have to be removed, I think they have to be brought up to, and match the character of our town. Um, and we also have to keep in mind, environmental concerns, open space, the walkability, um, affordable housing. There are all these factors that come into making some of these decisions. And I think, again, that the town people are engaged, and they're really concerned about, they want to keep the town. We're not a farming town anymore, but they want to try to keep the character as much as possible.
Hmm.
And part of the planning board is, to plan smart growth and, just try to make good decisions as far as, those things, those issues need to be addressed.
Yeah. Evaluating each proposal as it comes through to see if it fits and how it can fit.
Correct.
Yep. Well, thank you for that. Well, we've covered a few issues, a few topics, certainly with the key questions, et cetera. If there's something else we have not yet covered that you'd like to address while we have the opportunity to, use this platform to speak to the residents and voters, this is your time.
Well, for me, when I became an associate member, I realized I wanted to have a voice um, in what we do as far as a board. But an associate member is just, I basically have an opinion. Um, by um, running for a full-time position, it'll enable me to have a vote. So where I can put a vote with my, uh, for lack of a better opinion on what I think
Hmm.
uh, matters or what should be done. And I'm not the only one. I work with um, five other members, um, very knowledgeable people. I've learned a lot from them. Um, and we're losing two. Um, they both have a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to have big shoes to fill.
Hmm.
But if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, and you know, I want to try to protect the interests of the people here in Franklin, promote smart growth, um, and try to continue that, Franklin being the thriving community that it is, and it's very desirable to come here and listening to other candidates. A lot of them um, came here because of that very reason, and why my wife and I have stayed here. So um, we've called home for the better part of almost 70 years.
Hmm.
And this is an election that there are a lot of candidates out there. I think it's important that everybody get out and vote. Your vote does count, and you know, that's so just get out and vote. That's
Yeah,
all I.
that's to the point. Well said. And clarification while I've got the time and the opportunity with you, as I understand it, and I don't, unfortunately, because of my own time constraints and reporting, I focus on following the money. So I don't spend much time on planning board, ZBA, Concom, kind of the developmental side. But as I understand it, the associate can get promoted to be a voting member if one of the regular members has to recuse themselves from a project. Is that correct?
Well, I think partially. I'm not completely clear on the whole protocol because we've had um, members have to recuse themselves, but it wasn't to the point where I was needed to cast a vote.
Okay.
So in the 2 years I've been there, I've not a situation has not arisen or that I've had to um, um, vote that a vote that counts.
Hmm.
Uh, but I've always been, diligent enough to prepare myself to be ready, next man up, so to speak, as Bill
Just in
Bell
case. Yep.
say, next man up. And but I want to be prepared. So if that opportunity were to arise, I'd be able to give an educated, opinion um, and but it hasn't. But I'm looking forward to having that opportunity.
Hmm. Sure. Good. Well, thank you for sharing your background, life here, interests, and playing board certainly, as we've talked, is kind of a hot button these days. So, yeah, good luck going forward. I'll try and do some more reporting as I can, but yeah, hopefully I don't
Oh,
have to go to spend too much time there because those are the hot ones, and I'd rather you have a little bit easier discussion and still move us
okay.
forward.
Well, you're everywhere. You're at the festivals. You're at the town council meetings. You're at the breakfasts they have. So
Hmm.
you're everywhere. You're really doing a great job as far as making the people know that what's going on. And if they don't have um, your website, the Franklin Matters, then they don't know what they're missing really. So
Mm.
it's
Well, thank you for
important.
that. Yeah, I like to think I'm everywhere. I'm as many places as I can physically get to go. So thank you. I'm glad it's noticed.
No, it is noticeable. So, but I appreciate that. And I think that, I'm sure most of the people here in town appreciate it too with the time you give.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. And to the listeners, thank you for listening. If you will have Mark's contact info, email, the phone number on a slide as well as in the show notes. So if you do want to follow up with him on any particular additional questions, etc., feel free to do so. I think that's all we need to do there, other than stay tuned. We've got more of these coming. And just a reminder as well, as you mentioned before, it's important to vote local, and you'll have opportunity to do so based on what I've heard from the clerk. The ballots are out for print. They'll be back the week of October 6th, which is rapidly coming to us. So the mail ballots, if you've subscribed to get that, that should arrive sometime around that, I'm speculating, but that Columbus Day, Indigenous Day weekend. And early voting starts Friday, October 17th. So you'll have either the mail vote or the in-person vote. And then certainly at the high school on Tuesday, November 4th. Encourage all to participate because local votes are very important. So thank you again, Mark, for participating and sharing. And thank you, listeners. And a quick reminder, we do this because Franklin matters.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.